is a vision to create the Department of Health to stay as a center of excellence. Save time. It is based on that we started a direct campaign against the social ills. One of the challenges that our society is facing is gender-based violence. It's growing. Somebody who is a police officer was arrested on allegations that he was part of a process of kidnapping someone and demanding, what is it called? Ransom, yes. And but what's worrying is that the person knows the child very well, and it can't be a normal situation when young women, their ability to develop is being, smashed by the feeling of insecurity wherever they go. Because if this goes on, young women will be afraid to go to school, because if you have to register at the university to upgrade, and then you have to travel to go to work, after work you go to class, after class is done, you have to travel home, then the issue of safety then determines whether you have to upgrade yourself or not. That cannot be the situation that we allow. We really need to be dealing with that issue of safety of our women and children, particularly the young women in our society. Yes, the other big problem that we face is the issue of child and teenage pregnancy. We really need you young female employees of the Department of Health to assist us. What kind of language should we employ to be able to break through this barrier? What kind of strategies do we need to employ to make sure that we do away with this thing of child and teenage pregnancy? Yes, we have an option of giving, and implants are available, and we can utilize that. But that's not a permanent solution. We're treating the symptoms, and as health workers, you know that you identify first the problem, you deal with the problem, and then you can manage the symptoms. Managing the symptom does not deal with the issue. So it is important that you assist us to deal with that matter. The other challenge that we deal with, it is reported that mental health disorders affect 1 in 5 youths, and the South African Depression and Anxiety Group SADA estimates that 1 out of 4 South African employees suffers from depression. This severely affects their productivity, as they are classified under presenteeism, meaning that they come to work, they are not productive due to mental health issues. They often suffer from burnout, anxiety, and substance abuse. Now, issue of mental health. And there's one paper that I read at some point, I hope I'll remember it before I leave the podium, where somebody was saying, it's always important that as we empower students in universities and colleges, we should also add a little bit of empowering them to deal with disappointments. Because one of the things that we miss is giving our students frustration defense mechanism. Because when one finishes college, university, finds a job, there's this plan that comes into the mind. Year 1, I get this. Year 2, I get this. Year 4, I get this. And you go into work those expectations and those plans. Year 3 comes. The first and the second have not been achieved because the sandwich effect is still in control of your situation. That's where frustration comes to set in. And that's the area that we're lacking. Our education system is lacking on. In assisting our students and our young people to be able to deal with that matter. And that is where the issues of substance abuse come from. That is where the issues of GBV comes in. That is where we start seeing strange things in workplaces. People coming to work, not performing forever, on sick leave, and all those kind of things setting in. And yes, it is important. I can't remember who said it, who was standing here, who said we must give young people a chance to develop and not judge them. I think it's Tatefikizol who said it. And we should not judge them. But that does not mean that people should do wrong things deliberately. But the issue is that at all times, a concept called progressive discipline should always be put in place so that when the things go wrong, then we are able to correct that, but progressively in such a way that we're able to develop a person into the future leader that we need. So, let us encourage our peers to know their status by screening for HIV/AIDS and TB. These are the services that are available for free. And thank you very much to the artists who went there. Thank you very much for doing that. Let me stop there just a little bit that in the province we have a challenge. In fact, nationally, we have lost 1.1 million people in our ARV treatment register or program. And we need to get those back into the system. And in the Free State, we have lost 22,000 of them. And in Mangaung, we have lost 16,000. So those who are in Mangaung, there is a bigger challenge for us to get all those 16,000 people back into our register or into the treatment program. Because if we don't do that, if somebody can default on treatment, what are the chances that they will practice safe sex? Very limited, if any. And the damage that's happening out there. We need to bring that under control because, as HOD mentioned, we have lost quite a lot of partners who used to assist us with their treatment, ARV treatments and other things. So we're depending only on the budget that the Department of Health has. And to a certain extent, we must try and make sure that we just stop the spread here so that we are able to manage whatever that we have. Because if it grows as it used to, then we might reach a stage where we may not be able to provide everyone with treatment. So, it will be remiss of me not to acknowledge that your work environment still display some work tendencies and inefficiencies, lack of appreciation and heavy workloads. I had staff interviews throughout the province. I've also established compliance committees like hospital boards, clinic committees, and health council. They are constant reminder that much still needs to be done. We remain short-staffed, and they are always making queues in our facilities. Some nurses do their official work and work as cleaners and so forth. We currently have around 7,000 vacancies that we are not able to fill due to inadequate budgets and competing societal needs. So if members would go into our staff establishment and look into vacant positions, we are at 7,000 roughly. But if the CFO was there and to say, can we fill this 7,000, then you'd realize that we are unable to do so. But we have made a breakthrough, I think, under the leadership of the HOD. Members Chabasisi will be filling some of our natural attrition positions and hopefully will be able to deal with the issue of the imbalance in terms of our age differences within the workplaces. Some have complained about lack of opportunities for growth and recognition within your own units, and that you are overlooked for positions and so on. This is less than ideal. We are there. Where there is talent in our midst, we should start to look there and ensure growth and progression. We cannot hire outside when the skill exists internally. So this is the objective of the presentation. To say this is the direction that we need to take, and we are going to develop and give opportunity to all those who are internal. So I think what she did was just an introduction, so that curiosity can then come on your side to be able to contact the office and start making inquiries. What is it that I can be able to access in the form of support? Often we get interns at our various units. They are here to learn and gain necessary experience. Ideally, we should be absorbing them. If it was not because of budget constraints. They are not here to be sent out to buy us lunches and so on. So this is some of the things that we also need to correct, that interns, when they come to the department, they come here to get the skill. And as the department, we must make sure that we assist them to get the skill. But the reality is that you cannot train someone, and after training the person, you then let that person go, unless there will be very, very serious issues of behavior and other things. But ordinarily, the people that we train will definitely like to have them all back. Just a month ago, I was in the graduations of the nursing college in Guadalajara, and I was just thinking that 340-something nurses are graduating today, but we are unable to retain them, and all our facilities require all of them to be back into the system. And that's something that's very traumatizing. But as a department, we do not enjoy the fact that we train people and we let them go. But what we also acknowledge is that by doing that, we're giving them a lease on life, we're giving them a skill, we're giving them an opportunity to go somewhere and present themselves as something that is unemployable. But our first prize would have been that we have trained this person, we need to retain this person. So, just as I'm about to close my input, we live in a world that is very intertwined. And then, when I was growing up, when something happened in America, it would take almost a decade for it to have an impact on us. But the world has become a very small village because of a number of things. And one of the things is globalization. One of the things is the connectivity. Some of the things is how our economy is working closely with each other. And that always has an impact on us. We're not sure what's going to happen next. And we have a new sheriff in town in the United States. And that new sheriff, I think it depends whether what kind of breakfast he had. And then he starts thinking in a particular way. And that's something that makes us very uncomfortable and unstable. And I think that's what the HOD was saying, that we need to be self-reliant as a country and not depend on other people. So I wish we can be able to achieve that objective as soon as possible. But the biggest problem that we have is that we have had a world, a global world, that had one sheriff for a very long time. And that is unhealthy. It's unhealthy to have a unipolar global, unipolar world. We need to have a world where people have choices. We need to live in a world where the South African government can decide to do business with the US, do business with China, do business with Russia at the same time. And we should not be bullied into doing business only with the United States. That's not what the Freedom Charter says. It says that we must have our right to self-govern ourselves and be able to make decisions based on our priorities. But the biggest challenge that we're facing now is that we don't know what's going to happen. Now that the war in Iraq, is it Iran? I always confuse Iraq and Iran. Yeah. Now that the war has started, we're going to face quite a number of challenges, which includes the increase in fuel, and that will have a ripple effect on a number of things. And unfortunately, as Nademola was saying, it comes back to those who are sandwiches in his own explanation, because the income doesn't increase when there's an increase on this. So that's where then it becomes important that you initiate to reach out to the EAP of the department and do not allow yourself to be so pressed, to be so pressured that we have to come and tell you that now you need to seek help. Why not just sit in your own space and make a decision that you are going to seek help? You know, what's important of seeking help? Help when you still don't, when you are not yet desperate. It always helps that you seek help before you reach the stage of being desperate. Because when you become desperate, you don't have choices and you can't negotiate. But when you seek help on your own, then you can set your own terms and you can be able to achieve quite a lot. This is what Gramsci said. I just want to go back just a little bit to what I meant, what I said about the unipolar world. It says, the crisis consists precisely in the fact that the old is dying and the new cannot be born. And this interact now, a great variety of morbid symptoms appear. Now, this is the situation that I'm talking about. We had a unipolar world for a very long time, where America will, dictate everything. But now, we now have BRICS, we now have other organizations that seek to balance the world so that people can have choices. Now that old unipolar world has to die so that the new one, which is bipolar, should then come into existence. But the problem is that the old is now using bombs and wars and everything to threaten people. I mean, just look how Lesotho was strong-armed into accepting Stalin. I mean, it's something that's unthinkable. By the way, Stalin could have been beneficial to Lesotho, and Lesotho would have on its own terms went and got there. But they were strong-armed into getting into that contract, which is something that possibly might even happen to us. But the problem is that you don't negotiate the terms. You are given the terms, and one of the key problems that we have is that as South Africa, we expect that a certain portion of that business should be given to local people for local development. But standing conditions is that there's not going to be benefits for local economy. In terms of the profits that are coming from that arrangement. But all the whole money will then be taken by Stalin, probably, go and fund the war somewhere again. So, allow me to close. And I would like to mention just a few things. But this one is from an unknown writer. Says, when the youth take their place, the nation finds its healing. I'm part of the youth of 86. And we were called Rocklahood. And we did quite a lot of things. Most of which I can't even talk about. But all of them were done in order to fast track our freedom. And the reason is that we found our place. We took our place. We defined the objective of that particular epoch of history. And we went for it. And I think that's what is important, that in this day and era, the youth of today needs to define what their objectives are. And I don't subscribe to the idea that I should tell you what is it that you need to do. No. I think you understand your environment better. When I started being an activist, my mom didn't know that I was an activist. Because in those days, I would to comrade because the big question is that that was the thing. So the point I'm making, Kyori, at this point in time, we just need to make sure that the youth, they take up their rightful space in the society and assist our society to move forward. And one of the quotes that, as the quote goes ahead, is that it says that a caring heart steadies a trembling world. So we need hearts that are in the good place, and they can steady the world. And as I always mention, that I like the writings of Che Guevara when he says that you can't serve people that you don't love. You have to love the people, and then you can serve them. So as you go out there and do your daily work, we are not a perfect organization as the Department of Health. We have our own and many problems. We have inherited a lot of problems that we found here, because many of us in here, when we came here, we found the Department of Health in the condition that it is, and we will have to do our best to deal with those that we can, and those that will come after us, they will also deal with whatever that will be left. But as we still here, let's do our best to deal with those that we can. Finally, Timothy, the first Timothy, verse 4, chapter 4, verse 12. It says, let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. I believe those words will live in your and grow in our hearts and in our souls and make us better people. And when somebody asks you now, just tell him one little thing, that all you were saying is that it all comes down to love. You need to love one another, and you need to love the people that we serve, because it's only through love that we can be able to change the society that we live in and create a better world. Thank you very much.